At first sight, it appears a strange proceeding to equate the constant capital to zero. Yes, it is what we do every day. If, for example, we wish to calculate the amount of England's profit from the cotton industry, we first of all deduct the sums paid for cotton to the United States, India, Egypt, and other countries. In other words, the value of the capital that merely reappears in the value of the product is put to zero. अभी इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? क्या कह रहा है?
हम सब जब प्रॉफिट निकलते हैं,
हाँ 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 बराबर,
जब निकलते हैं टोटल सेलिंग प्राइस से कॉस्ट प्राइस माइनस करते हैं।
हाँ अमाउंट, हाँ बराबर बराबर बराबर,
वही बात है,
हाँ
वही बात है,
ठीक है। तो मैं इफ वी विश टू कैलकुलेट द अमाउंट ऑफ इंग्लैंड्स प्रॉफिट्स, खाली प्रॉफिट हम लोग गिनती कर रहे हैं, तो वही हुआ ना कि सरप्लस वैल्यू कितना है, तो जितना कैपिटल जिसने खर्चा किया वो सब्ट्रैक्ट करने का, ये उसमें से जितना वैल्यू था उसमें से, यही मामला है। वही इसने इधर जनरल फ्रेमवर्क करके इसने इधर लिखा है, पर सरप्लस वैल्यू ऐसा है क्या? तो फिर दोनों में
सरप्लस वैल्यू तो ऐसा होना ही चाहिए, क्योंकि कांस्टेंट कैपिटल जो मशीनरी है या फिर रॉ मटेरियल है, वो तो पहले से ही वो पेड चीज है, वो कुछ वैल्यू एडिशन आगे चल के मतलब सरप्लस कुछ भी प्रॉफिट ऐड नहीं करेगी, इवन द लेबर पावर
नहीं। पर ये इतना झंझट करने की आवश्यकता क्या है? ये मार्क्स क्यों कर रहा है ऐसा? अभी कोई ऐसा
तो मजा मोटा ज्यादा लिखने
मजा
में अच्छा लगता है,
अच्छा नहीं, उसमें नहीं, ऐसा नहीं कहेंगे हम ये कहेंगे कि व्हाट ही वांट्स टू रियली get what you can say get to hand is that he wants that the variable capital, his ideation behind it is very straightforward and simple, that the profits are created by the variable capital and there is no contribution from the constant capital. ये उसका फोकस है ना, ये सब ट्रीटाइज लिखने में भी ये फोकस है, और इसलिए वो पहले ये कर रहा है कि कैपिटल जो है, कांस्टेंट कैपिटल जो है उसको जीरो कर रहा है। तो ये बात है। अभी हालांकि ये जो अभी उसने एग्जाम्पल दिया है उसमें तो वेरिएबल कैपिटल भी जीरो पकड़ते हैं
ना, वो कांस्टेंट वेरिएबल को जीरो नहीं पकड़ते हैं।
नहीं, इधर पकड़ा है ना, इंग्लैंड का प्रॉफिट कितना हुआ पकड़ने के लिए वेरिएबल कैपिटल भी इंक्लूड किया है उसमें।
वो लेबर पावर को जितना पेड किया है उसको कांस्टेंट पकड़ रहा है,
उसको कांस्टेंट पकड़ रहा है सर,
उसको
बात बोला
हाँ, लेबर पावर वो 6 घंटा करने के बाद उसको स्टॉप कर देगा, तो वो 90 रुपीज कांस्टेंट ही रहेगा।
नहीं, वो नहीं कह रहा, वी आर टॉकिंग विथ रेस्पेक्ट टू द प्रेजेंट पैराग्राफ। In the present paragraph, if we want to find out the profit, he says, we put all the expenditures to zero, isn't it?
Yes.
That is from the value of the final product, we deduct both constant capital as well as variable capital to find out profit.
No. That 90 rupees, that V variable 90 rupees. That 90 rupees will be constant unless V equal to V does. Unless there is increment of V,
yes,
V will be constant.
I agree with you, Surajit.
लेबर पावर को भी जो 90 रुपीज दे के लेबर पावर लेने आ रहा है, उसको भी प्रीवियस पैराग्राफ में उसने कांस्टेंट ही ट्रीट किया था, मतलब कांस्टेंट ही कहा था, क्योंकि यू हैव टू बाय लेबर पावर ऑफ दैट अमाउंट एवरी डे फॉर प्रोडक्शन।
See, Surajit, you read this paragraph and tell me what is its meaning is. वापिस तुम पढ़ो at first sight, छोटा भी है paragraph.
At first sight, it appears as strange proceedings to equate the constant capital to zero. Yes, it is what we do every day. If, for example, we wish to calculate the amount of England's profit from the cotton industry, we first of all deduct the sum paid to the Qatar, to the United States, India, Egypt, and other countries. In other words, the value of the capital that merely reappears in the value of the product is put zero. इधर शुद्ध रॉ मटेरियल का बात बोल रहा है, दूसरा कुछ नहीं बोल रहा है.
हाँ, इधर ऐसा भी लग रहा है कि ये रॉ मटेरियल का माने ये करता है कि इफ वी विश टू कैलकुलेट द अमाउंट ऑफ इंग्लैंड्स प्रॉफिट्स फ्रॉम द कॉटन इंडस्ट्री, we first of all deduct the sums paid for cotton to the United States, India, Egypt, and other countries. In other words, the value of the capital that merely reappears in the value of the product is put to zero. इसमें अभी अभी इसमें क्या है मालूम है? This is confusing and he has not clarified it. So when he is saying that from the for example, if we wish to calculate the amount of England's profits, so what are its profits? So possibly,
Yes.
Sir, first sight, the raw material should be zero. First sight. Afterward, what will be happen? He has not told here. Here he is only telling the raw material cost is to be zero.
नहीं वो है, पर वो जो उसका जो कारण है, जो कांस्टेंट कैपिटल को जीरो करने के लिए जो उसका इंटेंशन है, वो इंटेंशन ये एग्जाम्पल में से कैसा एक्सप्लेन होता है, ये हमको बताने को आना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग, because he has cited this as an example to put constant capital to zero. That is all.
What I'm visualizing is, if we get by selling a product 10 rupees, for example, then first we have to find out what is the profit in this 10 rupees. We have to first deduct whatever the expenses we have made to create this product. Like, so let's minus 8 rupees for cotton, if there is cotton use of 8 rupees, then we have to deduct that 8 rupees and the final product would be 2 rupees. So that 8 rupees becomes, you have to, create that zero thing, कि अब कुछ नहीं है.
हाँ, खाली प्रॉफिट. ठीक है, तो पढ़ा ना, आगे पढ़ो.
आप बोल रहे थे, आप बोलिए ना, कुछ आप बताने वाले थे.
क्या सुरजीत,
आप कुछ बता रहे थे.
नहीं, मैं ये बता रहा था कि ये एग्जाम्पल जो साइट कर रहा है, ये एग्जाम्पल में से हमारे आंख के सामने एक साफ चित्र नहीं खड़ा रह रहा है कि
इधर सर वो नहीं बोल रहा है कि वो जीरो कर देने से सब प्रॉफिट हो जाएगा. We first of all deduct the sum paid. First, it is the first step.
See,
to deduct the raw material.
when otherwise, सुरजीत ये ध्यान में रखो कि if we want to find out the profit of that we have that has accrued to us, we deduct all expenses including constant and variable capital. Both of them we put them to zero.
Yes.
Variable capital is also constant. Variable capital is also, if we go through the previous paragraph, if you want.
हाँ, वो है, वो पर उसका आप जो कह रहे हैं ना विष्णु, उसका वो जो है उधर उसको ये कहने का है कि हम यदि वेरिएबल कैपिटल है करके भी पकड़ेंगे तो भी वो कांस्टेंट कैपिटल के जैसा प्रोडक्ट के वैल्यू में दिखता है. हम लोग कल चर्चा किया ना उसका, वो कांस्टेंट कैसे
प्रोडक्ट का वैल्यू में वो कांस्टेंट नहीं देखते,
तो उसके बगैर सरप्लस वैल्यू नहीं निकाल पाएंगे.
हाँ, वो जो सरप्लस वैल्यू है उसको वो कांस्टेंट नहीं बोलते.
नहीं, वो नहीं बोल रहा है, बराबर है. पर बात ये है कि जो कांस्टेंट कैपिटल हम मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन का हिस्सा करके देख रहे हैं और वेरिएबल कैपिटल जो मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन का हिस्सा करके पकड़ रहे हैं, जब हम उसको वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट के हिसाब से देखेंगे तो प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में ये जो वेरिएबल कैपिटल है, ये वेरिएबल कैपिटल कांस्टेंट है, क्योंकि he has already purchased the labor power. He has already paid for the value of the labor power. Therefore, in another way also it is appears as a constant. Ah, you are getting my point, because a fixed amount has been paid for the value of the labor power that he has purchased. That is fixed. So, though in terms when we are relating it to the value of the product, ये बात, बाकी कुछ नहीं, ठीक है?
ठीक.
देखेंगे. Let us see. You know, we have to go through it 101 times before we can actually reach the intention behind his writing the paragraph. देखेंगे आगे चल के. तो of course अभी आगे. हाँ, एक मिनट, ये आगे क्यों नहीं जा रहा है? एक सेकंड. ये क्या हो रहा है? हाँ, बस ठीक है. Of course, the ratio of surplus value not only to that portion of the capital from which it immediately springs and whose change of value it represents, but also to the sum total of the capital advanced is economically of very great importance. We shall therefore in the third book treat of this ratio exhaustively. In order to enable one portion of a capital to expand its value by being converted into labor power, it is necessary that another portion be converted into means of production. In order that variable capital may perform its function, constant capital must be advanced in proper proportion, a proportion given by the special technical conditions of each labor process. The circumstance, however, that retorts and other vessels are necessary to a chemical process does not compel the chemist to notice them in the result of his analysis. If we look at the means of production in their relation to the creation of value and to the variation in the quantity of value, apart from anything else, they appear simply as the material in which labor power, the value creator, incorporates itself. Neither the nature nor the value of this material is of any importance. The only requisite is that there be a sufficient supply to absorb the labor expended in the process of production. That supply once given, the material may rise or fall in value or even be as land and the sea without any value in itself. But this will have no influence on the creation of value or on the variation in the quantity of value. See, second thing, one more thing that we have to appreciate is ये लास्ट में टू करके नोट दिया है. अभी इसमें और एक बात जो है, जो हमको on a deeper level or for a deeper study, what is going on in his mind is to address, is to comment either constructively or contradictorily to those ideas that were present before him. तो ये टू क्या है? विष्णु तुम पढ़ो, ये टू क्या लिखा है इसने?
कहाँ पर?
ये पैराग्राफ के आगे ये है ना, नोट्स है ना टू का.
नोट्स में मेरे मैं उसमें पढ़ रहा हूँ. क्वांटिटी ऑफ वैल्यू के बाद वन है, वन में लिखा है, क्योंकि मेरे पास हार्ड बाउंड बुक है ना सर.
हाँ पढ़ो ना, ठीक है.
उसमें लिखा है what Lucretius says is self-evident. Nil posse crea de nihilo. Out of nothing, nothing can be created. Creation of value is transformation of labor power into labor. Labor power itself is energy transferred to a human organism by means of nourishing matter.
हाँ, और टू का क्या लिखा है?
टू का लिखा in the same way that the English use the term rate of profit, rate of interest. We shall see in book 3 that the rate of profit is no mystery so soon as we know the laws of surplus value. If we reverse the process, we cannot comprehend either the one or the other.
ये कौन सा है इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस? रुको रुको।
ये सर इसके बाद वाले पैराग्राफ का सेकंड है जो मैंने अभी
हाँ हाँ
शुरू
हाँ।
पढ़ा।
In the same way that the English use the term rate of profit, rate of interest, we shall see in book 3 that the rate of profit is no mystery so soon as we know the laws of surplus value. If we reverse the process, we cannot comprehend either the one or the other. So what this second that is saying, and that is quite evident in this writing, huh? What is evident in his writing is he sees the whole process topsy-turvy. What
Topsy-turvy?
उल्टा देखता है ना वो,
अच्छा।
उल्टा देखता है। जो बूर्जवा इकोनॉमिक्स जो ढंग से देखते हैं, वो अभी ये इसमें वो ये कह रहा है कि उसको यदि तुम इसका जो उसने लिखा है उसके उलट ढंग से देखेंगे तो तुमको ना ये ना वो समझेगा। वो क्या कह रहा है? In the same way that the English use the terms rate of profit, rate of interest, we shall see in book 3 that the rate of profit is no mystery. No, so soon as we know the laws of surplus value, if we reverse the process, if we see it in the opposite direction, if we reverse the process, we cannot comprehend either the one or the other. You're getting my point. So ये हमको ये शक आया ही, ये शक आया है। वो उल्टा देखता है और हम जो देखते हैं हम सीधा देखते हैं। और जो बुर्जुआ इकोनॉमिक्स है वो जो चल रहा है उसको ही देख रहे हैं। उसकी निर्मिति कैसी हो रही है वो देख नहीं पा रहे हैं। That is the problem. Again, we will read this paragraph again. Of course, the ratio of surplus value not only to that portion of the capital from which it immediately springs. So, from what portion of the capital does the surplus value spring?
वेरिएबल।
It
Variable.
springs capital, and whose change of value it represents. But also to the sum total of the capital advanced is economically of very great importance. So the ratio of the variable capital to the constant capital is as important while trying to understand surplus value as it is important to find the ratio of the surplus value to the
नहीं नहीं नहीं
variable
नहीं
capital.
सर, नहीं सर, वो बात नहीं लगता है। मीन सरप्लस वैल्यू अपन वेरिएबल वैल्यू, वो जो सब रेशियो रेशियो ऑफ सरप्लस वैल्यू, एक होता है सरप्लस वैल्यू बाय वेरिएबल वैल्यू, दूसरा होता है सरप्लस वैल्यू डिवाइड बाय टोटल कैपिटल एडवांस।
हाँ, तो दो अलग अलग हो गया ना।
वो अलग है।
उधर ही वो
दोनों का रेशियो,
हाँ, दोनों का
ratio
रेशो।
कितना है?
हाँ, बराबर। तो वो तो दो अलग अलग हो गया ना, वो कहता। पर ये जो बात वो कह रहा है, we shall therefore in the third book treat this ratio exhaustively. In order to enable one portion of a capital to expand its value by being converted into labor power, it is necessary that another portion be converted into the means of production. So the capital has to be divided into two parts. One part is that which is from which the value is going to spring, and the second part that is of constant capital. So that is also as necessary as labor power is necessary. The labor power of no use if constant capital is not supplied to living labor. In order that variable capital may, why? Because in order that variable capital may perform its function, constant capital must be advanced in proper proportion. A proportion given by the special technical conditions of each labor process. अभी कितना constant capital लगेगा? It depends upon the labor process, what you are producing, how you are producing it, etc., etc. The circumstance, however, that retorts and other vessels are necessary to a chemical process does not compel the chemist to notice them in the result of his analysis. That he knows that he will require retorts, though retorts are not they are not reflected in the product. If we look at the means of production in their relation to the creation of value and to the variation in the quantity of value, apart from anything else, they appear simply as the material in which labor power, the value creator, incorporates itself. So what is the relationship between constant capital and variable capital? Sir, variable वो retort use करता है ना, the variable capital, the constant capital is but the retort that the labor power uses to add value to the raw material. वो रिटॉर्ट करके जो वर्ड यूज किया है ना, इट इज जस्ट अ क्रूसिबल, इट इज इन विच ही रियली इन्वेस्ट हिज लेबर पावर. ऐसा ऐसा वो नहीं तो वी विल सी नाइदर द नेचर nor the value of this material is of any importance. The only requisite is that there be a sufficient supply to absorb labor expended in the process of production. So what he is saying, neither the nature nor the value of this material is of any importance. So he is saying that that is not important. What is important is
How much is supply?
that the supply is sufficient.
Hmm.
Thus, that supply once given, the material may rise or fall in value, or even be as land and the sea without any value in itself. But this will have no influence on the creation of value or on the variation in the quantity of value. What he is saying, with that supply once given, the material may rise or fall in value, or even be as land and the sea without any value in itself. That is that which is provided by nature. But this will have no influence on the creation of value or on the variation in the quantity of value. अभी ये क्या हो गया, पेज नंबर क्या है?
152. 152.
अरे हमारा पेज गया बाजू में, बाहर में, एक मिनट. तो नहीं, एक बहुत क्या है, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग सुरजीत, is we have to understand the nature of his argument with the help of the material that he has written. The argument is very important, and वही सब difficulty है. People are trying to understand economics without trying to interpret the way in which he argues, and that argument is very important. हाँ, कहाँ है?
152 first para.
152 ना? हाँ, तो ठीक है. ये इसमें क्या अभी, तो ये लास्ट सेंटेंस, दैट सप्लाई वंस गिवन द मटेरियल में. हाँ, इधर और एक बात ऐसी है कि द वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट इन नो वे corresponds to the value that has been expended in the labor process, because the product, when it comes as a product of whatever from the labor process, has to have all the characteristics of a commodity, and being a commodity, it will be the value of that commodity is independently decided through the process of simple circulation. उसके बाहर वो है ना, वो जब when it starts circulating along with other commodities, depending upon its necessity, depending upon its use value, it will acquire value in the exchange process. So what he is saying, therefore possibly he is saying this, that supply once given, the material may rise or fall in value, that is the final product, or even be as land and the sea without any value in itself. But this will have no influence on the creation of value or on the variation in the quantity of value. अभी ये, पर this will require greater deliberation.
ना सर, वो वही बात नहीं बोल रहा है शायद. वो बोल रहा है एक बार हमको रॉ मटेरियल मिल जाने से उसका वैल्यू बाद में फल करे या राइज करे,
हाँ, पर
लेकिन उसका वैल्यू क्रिएशन होता है, वैल्यू क्वांटिटी ऑफ वैल्यू का वेरिएशन, क्वांटिटी ऑफ वैल्यू वेरिएशन होता है ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ लिविंग लेबर.
एग्जैक्टली. even if the material supplied is free of cost, like land or sea. But
So the
if living labor is applied on them, and the value will be created. It won't be influenced by the fact that these things, the material supplied is free or is paid.
but so
Am I
the
right,
value.
Surjit sir?
So in other words, Vishnu, what you are saying, that the value of the product is independent of the value of the ingredients that have gone into the labor process.
Value created, not the
वही
value.
ना, value created is the value of the product.
एग्जैक्टली अगर लेबर लग जाएगा तो क्रिएट हो जाएगा.
और लेबर
But
लगने के
value of
पश्चात ही उसको वैल्यू आएगा ना.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, लेबर लगने के
हाँ,
पश्चात ही वैल्यू आएगा.
हाँ, तो
वैल्यू
नहीं क्या,
क्रिएट होगा, वैल्यू है सर, उसका रॉ मटेरियल का वैल्यू है.
नहीं नहीं
लेकिन
वो
वैल्यू
अगर वो सन और
क्रिएट,
मतलब जैसे वाटर और अर्थ की भी बात कर रहे हैं ना,
वो
लैंड.
नेचर का बात छोड़ दीजिए सर. और दूसरे रॉ मटेरियल का बात में तो वैल्यू है, वो बोलता है वैल्यू है, वो बात नहीं है.
लेट अस.
लेकिन वैल्यू वैल्यू क्रिएशन होता है ड्यूरिंग द प्रोसेस ऑफ लेबर.
लेबर
I'll ask you, Surjit, I'm asking you a much simpler question. When I go into the market to buy, suppose any commodity, do I even think, does it appear, come to my mind as to the ingredients which have gone into the labor process for producing that value?
No, that is the another thing, sir.
नहीं नहीं,
Another.
मैं क्या कह रहा हूं कि वही वो उसका कहने का ढंग कुछ भी हो, वो कहता है कि रॉ मटेरियल उसमें कितना गया, कितना इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में वेयर एंड टेयर में कितना गया, कितना वेरिएबल कैपिटल गया. हम जब एक आध कमोडिटी उसके वैल्यू के हिसाब से खरीदने जाते हैं, तब वी आर लीस्ट कंसर्न as to what all has made up that value.
We are looking only huge value.
No,
In the
not we are.
market, we
No,
are
no,
looking
no,
only
no,
huge
no.
value.
How when you're going to the market to purchase something, you are purchasing it at its value.
No, it is value, but if it is not
That
useful to me,
obviously that is a
then why
precondition.
can I? So the
See,
customer first looks at it is its huge value.
customer
Then
might what he is paying. What
then he purchase it at its actual value.
नहीं, वही मैं कह रहा हूं कि वो जो प्रोडक्ट है, वो प्रोडक्ट में का जो वैल्यू है, वो वैल्यू इज इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ ऑल दैट हैज गॉन इनटू इट्स क्रिएशन इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन.
इंडिपेंडेंट तो नहीं हो सकता सर. आई
Independent नहीं हो सकता.
आई डोंट अग्री, क्योंकि उसमें तो है, प्रीवियस लेबर का भी तो हिस्सा है उसमें, न्यू
अरे
प्रोडक्ट में.
मैं व्हाट आई एम
जो
ट्राइंग टू,
रॉ मटेरियल जो है, दैट इज अ कॉन्क्रेटाइजेशन और मटेरियलाइजेशन ऑफ प्रीवियस लेबर. ठीक है ना सर?
बराबर है, बराबर है. पर देखो, ये यू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन कि वी आर सीइंग द लेबर प्रोसेस ऑन द वन हैंड, on the other hand we are seeing the value creation as a culminating part of the process of production. These are two separate
ये
things.
ये सर क्रिएशन ऑफ वैल्यू का मतलब जो मैं समझता हूँ, the additional value created. I understand.
ये देखो सुरजीत मैं वापिस दोहरा रहा हूं कि जो हम लोग जब वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट पकड़ते हैं, वो वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट नहीं पकड़ा तो हम सरप्लस वैल्यू भी नहीं निकाल सकते. तो जो वैल्यू ऑफ द एंड प्रोडक्ट है, प्रोडक्ट आफ्टर द प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस हैज कल्मिनेटेड. सो व्हाट ही इज सेइंग इज दैट द वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट is determined independently of the value of all that has gone into its production, because that is the value of the product is decided in the process of simple circulation. What I'm trying to
value नहीं, that is an exchange value.
नहीं excess नहीं, जो
value of the product,
नहीं, if you are what I'm
in the
again
market.
huh?
Value is value is determined in the production itself,
Mm,
but the exchange value is determined. Exchange value is determined in the market.
see, exchange value is determined. There are two aspects to it. विदाउट एक्सचेंज वैल्यू कैनॉट बी डिटरमाइंड, इसलिए तो हम इक्विवेलेंट और रिलेटिव
इसलिए
फॉर्म,
मैं तो
रिलेटिव और
समझ रहा
इक्विवेलेंट
हूँ
फॉर्म हमने पढ़ा ना।
अभी तक मैं जिससे नहीं उभर पाया हूँ वो यही है कि आई ऑलवेज कंसिडर वैल्यू एज एक्सचेंज वैल्यू।
नहीं नहीं, ये तो है, पर जब
Value is the social necessity, labor power,
हाँ
Equalization
materialized
is
in
that, sir,
product.
when we both is, for
No, no,
example,
no.
you have
There,
something you have created and something I have that I have created, and I want to exchange my thing with you, my product with you. What we are exchanging? We are exchanging labor, right?
yeah,
Socially
but
necessary labor. And
you are right. You are right. Let me speak. But how much actual labor is being spent by me? It is being decided in the market and sold at SNLT. But
exactly.
exactly
हाँ,
what
दैट इज,
that SNLT is
हाँ
providing
हाँ
to me,
हाँ,
maybe
अभी
not.
अभी अभी
But
अभी
value, is actual labor content in the product is value.
बट दैट इज
Sir,
डिटरमाइंड
but
बाय द
how would you measure that actual labor?
ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, हम लोग इसके
How
ऊपर,
much time, how much time I have spent on it?
सी
How
सी,
much time I may
Socially
I
necessary time, sir, not the time.
no. That will be sold at social necessity time. You may make a product by your own hand. I make that product in a machine. You will take 10 hours. I will take 2 hours. What is the cost? What is the value of my product? That is 2 hour labor. What is the value of your product? That is 10 hour labor. But at what price it will be? At what value it will be
हाँ,
exchanged? It will be exchanged at the SNLT prevails in the market society.
बराबर बराबर, अभी सो योर 2 hours लेबर विल बी इक्वल टू हिज 8 hours और 10 hours लेबर।
Yes, but it
बराबर,
not be if you exchange.
हाँ,
If you
तो
simply exchange,
ठीक ठीक है ठीक
it
है,
will simply if it is buttering system, that my 2 hour equal to your 10 hour. But when it is exchange, simple exchange, it will be at SNLT.
हाँ ठीक है, ठीक है, विष्णु विष्णु पढ़ो, पैराग्राफ पढ़ो।
पढ़ता हूँ। पर
नहीं,
सर मैं ये पढ़ने से पहले ये एकदम क्लियर करना चाहता हूँ कि इस पैराग्राफ का जो क्रक्स है, जो मतलब आर्गुमेंट है, is this, that you know the value created has some part of variable capital and has some part of constant capital, and he's saying that what part of constant capital this surplus value carries will be studied in book number 3. That is what he said. ठीक है ना sir? And
बराबर,
then he elaborates things that when you see the product you do not know, you do not see the machinery that has gone into it, you do not see the falana falana falana, you only say. He gives the example of chemist, he is using his vessels and etc, but he doesn't care about vessel and everything when he sees the product, end product. This is what the argument of this paragraph is. Am I right, sir?
या ठीक है ठीक है। नहीं, वो सी, I'll tell you one more thing. While writing anything, Bhartrihari has said, and this is very important. He has commented he has written a commentary on Panini and Patanjali together. And what he says, in the process of writing, there is a severe block that has to be overcome. That is, things take place simultaneously at the given instant. However, in their representation, they are presented as if it is one after another.
Okay.
You are getting my point. What has he brought to our notice? He is saying that in the process of writing or in the process of even speech, we are compelled because of the nature of language itself to put it one after another, though it has simultaneity. all things are happening at the same time. But if we want to describe it, we cannot describe it at one moment. For example, what I'm trying to convey is this. Suppose you see a bird sitting on the branch of a tree. Now, this bird which is sitting on the branch of a tree, many things you see at the same time. However, when we have to communicate, we have to say that a bird is sitting on the branch of a tree. It has the time required for making this statement is times the time required just to see what has happened. With this in mind, we have to be very careful that in each paragraph he is trying to describe the various facets of a single instant. Giving an example, suppose I am seeing a statue. This statue, when I see it, I see the statue as from a position in which I am standing. The moment I change my position, I see a different facet of the statue. If I change the position again, the facet appears to be different. However, the statue is one and the same.
Exactly.
You're
Good,
getting
very good.
you're getting
Yeah,
what I'm trying to tell. And this is the
yeah, yeah.
this is the problem which Marx needs to overcome in his writing.
Hmm.
This has to be appreciated. And this has been very nicely described by Bhartrhari in his book, Vakya Padiyam. The book's name is Vakya Padiyam by Bhartrhari. And he
ओके
has
अब मैं
exhaustively.
पढ़ता हूँ
हाँ ये है PDF भी available है. It is a very good book. The problems that we face while writing anything, this is what he is trying to the characteristic feature of a language that needs to be abided by in order to describe anything, and the
सर
lacunas that the हाँ
मार्क्स तो नहीं पढ़ा है ना, इसीलिए थोड़ा गड़बड़ी हो रहा है।
नहीं पर अरे
क्या
पर
पता पढ़ा
उसने बोलने की जरूर
नहीं
नहीं हो.
गड़बड़ी नहीं हो रहा लेकिन ये भर्तृहरि का जो सिद्धांतीकरण है, जो थ्योराइजेशन, उसको फॉलो तो मार्क्स कर ही रहा है।
हाँ तो हमको क्या लगता है कि अलग अलग बोल रहा है. नहीं
अनकॉन्शियसली वो अनअवेयर होगा भर्तृहरि से, लेकिन फॉलो तो वही पैटर्न।
हाँ बस वही हिसाब से हमको उसको देखना है. ठीक है, आगे चलते हैं.
मैं पढ़ता हूँ।
पढ़ो.
Of course, the ratio of surplus value not only to the portion of the capital from which it immediately springs and whose change of value it represents, but also to the sum total of the capital advanced, is economically of very great importance. We shall therefore, in the third book, treat of this ratio exhaustively. In order to enable one portion of a capital to expand its value by being converted into labor power, it is necessary that another portion be converted into means of production. In order,
एक मिनट. So what is he saying in this sentence? In order
in
to
order,
enable one portion of capital to expand its value, that is if the variable capital has to expand its value, then another portion of the capital has to be expended on the means of production.
exactly, they have to renovate, we have to renovate them or advance them, etc.
हाँ. Yeah,
Sir.
so the point of view from which he is looking, that capital, in order to create surplus value or in order to create value, he has to divide his capital into two parts. One is the labor power, and the other is the food that has to be supplied to the labor power in order to create a new value.
Hence, not just labor is producing surplus value, but these means of production also.
नहीं,
I mean,
वो
but
ये they are the
some
necessary.
portion, little or not little, but
See,
there will
see,
be
see.
surplus
What
value
I'm
में
seeing
उसका
stat.
भी हिस्सेदारी होएगा सर।
ये देखो.
रॉ मटेरियल नहीं होने से सरप्लस में से किससे तो तैयार
नहीं
करेगा
नहीं नहीं
लेबर?
नहीं 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 स्टैटिस्टिक्स
अरे
में
मशीन भी
सुनिए स्टैटिस्टिक्स में और कैलकुलस की जिक्र तो सुरजीत ने भी की थी. तो स्टैटिस्टिक्स में दो बातें आई थी, नेसेसरी कंडीशंस एंड सफिशिएंट कंडीशन. सुरजीत, so necessary condition is that if you have to, from this point of view, if you have to create surplus value, It is inevitable, according to Marx, that you have to apply labor power. This is a prerequisite. Without labor power, nothing can happen. But that can only happen if the sufficient condition is also satisfied. That the other constant capital is supplied to him in sufficient quantity.
Right.
Then alone, तो ये भी ध्यान में रखो, ये स्टैटिस्टिक्स में से आया है. So necessary condition
बहुत बढ़िया.
and sufficient condition. These two things are important. This comes for your information in finding out maxima and minima in calculus. बराबर है ना सुरजीत?
बराबर sir,
हाँ.
बराबर.
तो ये एस्पेक्ट आगे पढ़ो विष्णु.
In order that variable capital may perform its function, constant capital must be advanced in proper proportion. A proportion given by the special technical conditions of each labor process. The circumstance, however, that retorts and other vessels are necessary to a chemical process does not compel the chemist to notice them in the result of his analysis. If we look at the means of production in their relation to the creation of value and to the variation in the quantity of value, apart from anything else, they appear simply as the material in which labor power, the value creator, incorporates itself. Neither the nature nor the value of the material is of any importance. The only requisite is that there be sufficient supply to absorb the labor expended in the process of production. That supply once given, the material may rise or fall in value, or even be as land and sea without any value in itself, but this will have no influence on the creation of value or on the variation in the quantity of value.
ठीक, आगे चले. ठीक है, काफी हमने इसके ऊपर चर्चा की है. ठीक है. In the first place, then, we equate the constant capital to zero. The capital advanced is consequently reduced from C plus V to V. And instead of the value of the product C plus V plus S, we have now the value produced V plus S. Given the new value produced, that is equal to 180 pounds, which sum consequently represents the whole labor expended during the process, then subtracting from it 90 pounds, the value of the variable capital, we have remaining 90 pounds, the amount of the surplus value. This sum of 90 pounds or S, that is surplus value, expresses the absolute quantity of surplus value produced. The relative quantity produced or the increased percent of the variable capital is determined, it is plain, by the ratio of the surplus value to the variable capital, or is expressed by S upon V. That is surplus value upon variable capital. In our example, this ratio is 90 upon 90, which gives us an increase of 100%. This relative increase in the value of the variable capital or the relative magnitude of the surplus value, I call the rate of surplus value. So what is the rate of surplus value?
100.
S by V.
So yeah, by doing all this explanation,
Only labor. Only
ah,
labor and
तो
each extra labor. Only and each extra labor.
बराबर. So our topic under consideration is rate of surplus value, and we have already studied, or he has already explained, that the role of constant capital is just to reproduce, or what he says, that their value just reappears without any variation. So the thing that has to be considered for determining the rate of surplus value is the active ingredient that is involved in the labor process, which is the variable capital, and the total value, additional value that is produced by that variable capital, which he is calling as surplus value. Then the ratio of the variable capital to the surplus value produced is the rate of surplus value. यह एकदम
Surplus
चकाचक.
value, ratio of the surplus value to the variable value.
हाँ, वो ये देखो, 190:90 में रेशियो आएगा तो A:B is A/B, मैथमेटिकल. तो इट इज वेरिएबल कैपिटल. क्या दिया है ना उसने, S/V, सरप्लस वैल्यू बाय वेरिएबल कैपिटल, बाय सरप्लस वैल्यू बाय वेरिएबल कैपिटल. ठीक है. ये इधर, सो इट इज, ही शुड हैव रिटन इट. ही हैज सेड दैट इट इज S/V. सो इट इज द रेशियो ऑफ सरप्लस टू वेरिएबल कैपिटल.
सरप्लस वैल्यू मिलेगा टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट माइनस कैपिटल एडवांस्ड.
सुरजीत, तुमको क्वेश्चन पूछूं क्या? तुमको क्वेश्चन पूछूं क्या? पूछो 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 क्या? What is, how, there are two ways of comparison. One way is greater or smaller, or equal, greater, smaller. This involves addition or subtraction. Barabar? The second way in which two quantities are compared is by ratio. So
you have to compare by some ratio.
It can also be compared by greater than or lesser than. See whether variable capital is greater than surplus value produced or surplus value produced is greater than variable capital. ये भी एक comparison हो सकता है. बराबर है?
वो कंपैरिजन में सर वो ग्रेटर देन लेसर देन होता है, लेकिन एग्जैक्ट वैल्यू उसको पता नहीं चलता.
एक मिनट. हाँ ठीक है.
आपको एग्जैक्ट रेशियो जब आएगा डिफरेंस ऑफ टू वैल्यू डिवाइडेड बाय द ओरिजिनल वैल्यू.
देखो, नहीं, आई एम आस्किंग यू अ मैथमेटिकल क्वेश्चन. 1 minute, आई विल जस्ट टेक द फोन. हेलो. हाँ, मैं एक 15-20 मिनिटांनी, पावणे 10 पर्यंत. हाँ ठीक है. तर तो मैं क्या कह रहा हूं कि रेशो और ये जो कंपैरिजन है इसमें अंतर क्या है? तो in the case of greater or smaller, it is the difference in the value of the two.
डिफरेंस हो गया सर 5. सपोज वन इज 10 अनदर इज 5, डिफरेंस आ गया 5.
हाँ, ये एक
वो 5 जब आप बोलेंगे हम 5
हाँ,
वो 5 हमको मिले.
हाँ,
वो 5 पे आप क्या समझेंगे वो क्या है?
वो भी कंपैरिजन है. हमको तुमको
वही कंपैरिजन 5 में हम जब सिर्फ 5 बोलेंगे, हम वो 5 किसके साथ किसका कंपेयर हुआ हमको पता नहीं चला.
हाँ, तो इसलिए हम लोग डिफरेंस देखते हैं. रेशियो में क्या देखते हैं?
वो तो डिफरेंस जो रेशियो में आ गया सर, इसमें क्या हो गया, इसमें दो अंक पता चल गया. एक 90 अनदर 90, लेकिन डिफरेंस में एक ही अंक आता है 5. इधर जब 92 अंक होने से हम डिफरेंस 0 आता है. वो 0 क्या है, लेकिन रेशियो में हमको 2 अंक सामने आ जाता है.
the expected answer is that a ratio indicates the quotient, whereas a simple comparison expresses difference. Therefore it becomes A/B.
हम जब सर रिजल्ट देखेंगे,
नहीं, रिजल्ट देखो तुम.
नहीं -5 तो नहीं देखेंगे, हम 5 देखेंगे.
हाँ बराबर.
लेकिन जब रेशियो बोलेंगे हम 2 नंबर को देखेंगे सामने में. जब
हाँ ठीक. This is just going away from the topic, but this mathematical, why the word rate of surplus value has been used. So when we are talking about the rate of surplus value, we are always talking about quotients. We are not talking about difference. That is all that I wanted to express. ठीक है. तो ये भी क्लियर है ना? ये क्लियर. हाँ,
इसको पढ़ के खत्म करते हैं आज का, क्योंकि एक फोन आ रहा है जो मुझे उठाना.
ठीक है. ओके. हाँ, पढ़ो.
In the first place, we equate the constant capital to 0. The capital advanced is consequently reduced from C plus B to V. And instead of the value of the product C plus B plus S, we have now the value produced B plus S. Given the new value product produced equal to 180 pound, which sum consequently represents the whole labor expended during the process, then subtracting from it 90 pound, the value of the variable capital, we have remaining 90 pound, the amount of the surplus value. This sum, 90 pound or S, expresses the absolute quantity of surplus value produced. The relative quantity produced or the increased percentage of the variable capital is determined, it is planned by the ratio of the surplus value to the variable capital, or is expressed by S by B. In our example, the ratio is 90 minus 90, which gives an increase of 100%. This relative increase in the value of the variable capital or the relative magnitude of the surplus value I call the rate of surplus value.
बराबर, तो ठीक है। तो ये आज का नहीं, इसमें इसमें काफी बातें हमको सोचनी पड़ेगी और देखेंगे। एक बात है कि हमारे भाई ने हमको कहा कि यदि तुमको एक आध ग्रंथ का अध्ययन करना हो, इफ यू वांट टू रीड अ treatise, and especially this is true even of Marx, because he is looking at the thing in an inverted way, which has already stated in the preface, saying that the method of investigation and the method of the presentation are different. What is the difference? That in the method of investigation, we are investigating from the general to the particular. In the method of presentation, what is being it is presented as if it is from the particular to the general. So in fact, we should read capital either ways, from beginning to end and from end to the beginning, because the end describes the general form, and the beginning describes the starting point is the particular. These things, these methodological things,
Abstract and concrete.
वो तो है,
General is the abstract.
वो तो
General
है,
is the abstract form.
हाँ,
Beginning is the concrete form.
हाँ,
From concrete to abstract or from beginning to general.
हाँ, तो ये दोनों, और
Particular to general.
इसका ज्ञान नहीं रहेगा ना, तो ये पढ़ के समझना बहुत मुश्किल है। ठीक है, तो क्या,
कल मिलते हैं सर।
कल मिलते हैं,
कल मिलते हैं।
ओके,
बाय सर, थैंक यू
बाय
सुरजीत सर, थैंक यू सर।
बाय बाय बाय।